Nowadays, most people pass this building by. It's the CTO, Chief Telegraph Office. Telegraph, it's a word that seems to belong to another time, another century. And of course it does, back to 1854 in Melbourne, over 130 years. For the last 60 of those years, the Chief Telegraph Office in Little Bourke Street has been home to the telegraph service and its operators.
Sorry, Russell, where you going?
Mick is rather unusual. He has done the same job for 21 years. Mick loves his work, like most of his workmates here at the CTO. They probably wouldn't have stayed here if they didn't. They share a lot of memories and experiences. Some of them go back almost 60 years to times when this room and the floors above and below were the very centre of worldwide communications for the people of Victoria. By the time you get to see this, see and hear me, the old CTO won't exist. Mick and his workmates will have gone. Most of the machines will no longer be in work use, and some modern enterprises will be occupying the CTO building. That's why I'm here, to show you how the Chief Telegraph Office operated for nearly 60 years, and to keep alive the traditions of Mick and all the other men and women who worked here, keeping Victoria in touch with the world. Now, from the time of the earliest telegraph transmissions, it was obvious that telegraphy would open up the Australian continent to the rest of the world. The Victorian gold rush had made Melbourne the financial centre of the colony, and there was a great need to keep it in touch with the other world traders. Melbourne led the way with Australia's first telegraph line for public service in 1854 between Melbourne and Williamstown. Progress was rapid. Huge geographical obstacles were overcome. If you think you work hard, you should have seen these people. In 1858, Melbourne and Sydney were linked, and by 1872, with the completion of the overland telegraph, messages that had taken 3 months by ship were telegraphed to and from London in 7 hours. You know, over the years, some things haven't changed very much. Apart from keeping the stock markets in touch, there was the threat of a Russian invasion, so it was even more important to have a direct line to the Colonial Office in London. Through all this, the telegraph service had expanded so much that no tin shed or office in Melbourne seemed big enough until 1927, when this building, the Chief Telegraph Office, became home and headquarters for the people and equipment who were to give top service for the next 6 decades.
The telegraphic nerve centre in each state is located in the capital city, and in Elizabeth Street, Melbourne, stands the Chief Telegraph Office of Victoria. Its doors are never closed. 24 hours of the day, every day of the year, the service is maintained for your convenience. Let's go in and see what happens when a telegram is sent. Across that counter, hundreds of thousands of telegrams are sent each year. Business messages, birthday and seasonal greetings, social arrangements and messages of congratulation. All are flashed by telegraph to the confines of the Commonwealth and through overseas channels to the people of the whole civilized globe.
I started at the CTO on a part-time basis in 1916. It was one of the 2 avenues of promotion that were available to people in the Postmaster General's department. You either went out on the postal side as a postal clerk or clerical assistant, provided you passed the 3rd Division examination, or you went on the telegraph side.
It was a job of some structure that was sought after, especially in the public service. Only the best were selected after interview, and I came down into the CTO here in 1927. First CTO, not this present building, it was over in the GPO next door here, and that was the centre of communication for the whole of Australia there.
Let us suppose that our message is going to Sydney. Pneumatic tubes carry the message rapidly to the operating room. Here it is placed on a travelling belt and conveyed to the sorter. Then by means of this high-speed overhead carrier, it is shot to the Sydney multiplex position. By means of carrier waves on varying frequencies, it is possible to send 68 telegrams simultaneously over the same pair of wires between Melbourne and Sydney. Each message is prepared on perforated tape, which controls the transmitting mechanism. An ingenious mechanism. The distributor arranges the order of transmission, and here we see how it is done. At the Sydney terminal, another distributor diverts the letters into their appropriate channels. The perforations made in the tape in Melbourne have enabled the necessary signals to be sent along the line, and now, on arrival in Sydney, cause the message to be typewritten automatically by the receiving apparatus. Having been checked and sorted for distribution, the messages are conveyed speedily by travelling belts and pneumatic tubes to the delivery points. These tubes are used not only internally, but stretch for miles beneath the streets of the capital cities. Newspaper, cable and branch post offices are equipped with this rapid means of transportation over the comparatively short distances between local centres. And now, having passed with speed and efficiency through the most modern of telegraph systems, our message covers the final stages of its journey in the sure hands of the telegraph messenger.
The telegraph branch in those days was about 360 people were employed in the telegraph branch. About 250 or more on the operating side, and the other 110 were on the delivery and acceptance and delivery side. Phonograms didn't exist, and telegrams were very cheap. 6pence for a suburban telegram, 9pence for a country telegram, and a shilling for an interstate telegram. It was important because it was the only means of communications. Telephones didn't exist, or if they existed, there was an exchange at William Street that had about 40 or 50 or 60 subscribers, and that was about the only means of communication was by telegram.
When we'd come here in the morning, we'd have all the international, American and European traffic cablegrams, business telegrams, social telegrams, all here ready for commencement. Your line file would be filled in front of you. We had cubicles of sleeping accommodation here for the telegraphists who would go to sleep then, and then they'd go home when they woke up in the morning.
Tropical rain and flooded rivers spell danger and disaster, and when the roaring bushfire sweeps through the country, the maintenance men are to be found working day and night. The difficulties of maintaining telegraph lines that traverse so vast a continent as Australia are very real. But floods and fires are forgotten in the wild excitement of a Melbourne Cup day. And here comes the winner. In Sydney, the newspapers are waiting for pictures of the finish, and in less than an hour, they will get them. Fast motor cars speed the cameraman to the newspaper office in Melbourne.
At the Melbourne Argus office, we work 6-hour shifts, extremely fully occupied all the time, handling stock exchange reports, race course acceptances. In fact, all the news that appeared in the Argus daily, we were responsible for accepting that over the Morse line from either Sydney Morning Herald or the Advertiser in Adelaide.
Here the picture is developed and a print is rushed to the telegraph office, where it is placed on a revolving drum onto which a minute beam of light is focused. As the drum revolves, the variations of light and shade are reproduced as signals that are transmitted to Sydney by telegraph, where they are converted back to variations of light and directed onto another film. And here come the newspapers, hot off the press. In this modern age, speed is a vital necessity, and the service of the Telegraph provides this all-important element.
The more skills increased, and it was not unusual to send messages at 45 words a minute and receive messages 45 words a minute or faster when the transmitting operator cut the message up in abbreviated form. For instance, many happy returns of the day would come through on the line as MHROTD, be transcribed in full by the receiving telegraphist as many happy returns of the day.
Hello, what's this? Somebody's birthday forgotten. No need to go to the post office. This thoughtful young lady sends her telegrams by telephone. Skilled attendants receive the message, and in a few moments her friend, perhaps thousands of miles away, will have her cheery greeting. The latest development in telegraphic communication is the teleprinter. This machine can be operated by anyone capable of using an ordinary typewriter. As the message is tapped out by the sending operator, it is instantly printed in typewritten form at the receiving end. Communication is direct, whether it be between one business organization or another, or between an office and the telegraph department.
When I came into the job in 1942, JB Ware were virtually one of the few private wire circuits. Number one became the number one telex circuit, together with Peter's Ice Cream and Repco. And as the systems developed, we're now looking at many thousands of customers these days connected worldwide.
Public and commercial clients weren't the only benefactors of the CTO. War, with so many industries, can bring great leaps in technology. Telegraphy was no exception, and the CTO became a vital service and link for Australia's allies during the Second World War. It was an era of secrecy and extreme pressure for the operators.
We were a reserved occupation here, and whenever you were called up for military service, you would report to the drill hall and be medically examined, but then sent to manpower and sent back to your job. The security arrangements here were such that we were all specially sworn in and securitised. Chief Telegraph Office would have been the first focal point for an enemy attack, sabotage or direct shelling from the bay. If you disrupt the communication centre, you're halfway there. So much so that we had at Carlton an underground secret auxiliary Chief Telegraph Office. The windows were all taken out and they were blocked up, bricked up, and we had light on all day. We never had any natural light in here at any time during the war period from 1939 to 1945.
The three services, the armed services, the Navy, Army and Air Force, were all located in Melbourne at that time. And of course they were busy times with the troops embarking and casualty lists and all that sort of thing. And the CTO was very important in those days.
Another role of the CTO was to transmit secret military material. Operators were required to send and receive the most confidential messages and understand the complexities and differences of codes in cipher.
Cipher is 5 letters of the alphabet that could mean a large sentence. Code means something that is in plain language meaning something else.
It was also the duty of some operators to bear the most tragic of messages to loved ones.
Well, we had a special casualty section here, which was manned by 2 telegraphists who were sworn in specially. We had the secret locations of all the units, and the telegrams in those days from the soldiers to their loved ones here were free, but they were kept to a minimum. I can recall some of them messages to mothers written on the insides of cigarette cartons. No paper on the war points those days.
Through the pressure and tragedy of the war, a tremendous sense of comradeship and humour prevailed between the operators of the CTO.
If you didn't have a sense of humour, you soon developed one there because the game was on all the time. There was never a dull moment. And when it came to the crunch, Telegraph was stuck together through thick and thin.
Well, we used to get up to a bit of mischief. We had pretty strict supervisors, and in those days it was always Mr. this and Mr. that. He used to take liberties, which you'd get chastised about, but he had no option but to cop it sweet.
This chappie got a bit excited, and he said to the supervisor, if I never had a wife and 2 children, I'd jump out of this window. The supervisor replied, if you didn't have a wife and 2 children, I'd throw you out.
After the war, the strict disciplines at the CTO were relaxed, and more commercial pursuits became the order of the day. There were enormous advances in telegraphic technology, and the 1950s saw the first telex exchange and a new system called TRESS.
TRESS is a system whereby people who send telegrams are switched through the TRESS system, and it's an old-fashioned electromechanically based switching system similar to a telephone exchange, except that it stores punch paper tape where the messages are on.
More efficient and faster equipment boosted customer use of the CTO, and in the 1960s it became as popular as the Beatles. Well, almost.
No one went on leave at Christmas. That was a very, very busy time. Thousands and thousands of Christmas telegrams. People moving around too, that made it busy. And Christmas telegrams were coloured, like a lot of others, Mother's Day and congratulatory wedding telegrams and Easter greetings and all that, at no extra charge. And they invited people to send these telegrams, and which they did. It's a pity they were cut out.
The upsurge of new technology, of course, meant progress, but progress has its victims. The Morse key, symbol and instrument of telegraphy, became obsolete, and whilst there were other advances and additions to the telegraphic service through the 1970s, it never quite seemed the same without it. Still, the computer provided new excitement and efficiency.
Right, what country is it going to, please? And your telex number?
Well, it is a worldwide trend. And also we have to keep up to date. A lot of private companies, like big airlines and that, are going to screen-based equipment and computerised switching equipment. It's a lot faster system, it requires less handling, and it is more efficient than the old system that was in the 70s.
We all knew that the computer and satellite would weaken the popularity of the telegram, but it still has its uses and will for quite some time. And for the next few years, the operation will be run from a smaller, more convenient location. Staff are being retrained for the new Public Message Bureau. There are better ways of handling this type of message. But for the operators, the memories of the old CTO remain.
You had the opportunity to help people in the community. You had the opportunity to help your workmates.
When you went there and you had to do a 6-month course and learn Morse code and all that, you had something that some other people in the service couldn't do, and it was a real art.
I think it's the comradeship among all your workers and helping the public.
Discipline and obedience, loyalty were paramount and demanded, not asked for, they were demanded.
And there was always an SP bookmaker on the premises. You never had any problems with being able to place a wager at any time.
We used to like to duck over the pub and have a beer, and if you were back late, you'd get into strife. But at least we did do our work, and we got it out of the road in a quick manner.
It was a great pride in being a telegraphist.
And a very nice lot of chaps. I would say 95% wouldn't need supervision. They'd wind them up and let them go.
There was an atmosphere, an aura here of comradeship, camaraderie that existed right from the day I stepped into this office in 1927, and it exists right through to the current day. The regard that telegraphists had for each other.
And lettergrams are in. One of Victoria's oldest forms of communication, the telegraph, has finally given way to modernisation. Bridget Duclos reports that Telecom has marked the end of an era and given the message to Australia Post.
The Telegraph has been sending messages around the world for more than 140 years, the telegram leading the way in communications well before the advanced technology of telephone and fax. But now Telecom's oldest system of spreading the word is to be replaced by an Australia Post initiative, the lettergram. Telecom has been preparing for the change for 2 years now, but after 45 years as a telegraphist, for Don Jenkins, watching the last telegram was an emotional moment.
Oh, I'm sorry to see the Telegraph branch reaching an end of an era. It's a rather sad day, really. There's a bit of a trauma associated with it. However, we knew that it was going, and we just sort of faced realities.
Fast like the telegram, the lettergram lets you say a lot more for a lot less, and according to Australia Post, is more efficient.
We think the format will be better, but there's a whole new market out there that hasn't really looked at telegram for some time, so it's really a marketing exercise. I think we'll do quite well.
And so they're finally writing off the telegram.
Well, over the years, the rivalry between Melbourne and Sydney has often been written off as a joke.
But according to a new movie, the rivalry really does